If you remember splattering Geonosians, absolutely gigantic Wookiees, and trying to snipe General Grievous, then you grew up playing Star Wars Republic Commando. Released in early 2005, Star Wars Republic Commando was a first-person shooter set during the Clone Wars, following a group of elite clone troopers known as Delta Squad. Now, there have been a lot of Star Wars games, some great, some not so great, but Republic Commando seems to be one of those standout titles that's been regarded by many fans as one of the best games set in the galaxy far, far away. And so in this video, I decided to revisit this classic shooter to see how well it's aged. Okay, let's begin. And straight away, big brownie points for this game. This is the only FPS I've ever played that starts with you playing as a baby. Look, you can even move his little arms. The game takes advantage of the first-person perspective to immerse you in the world. You see the clones go through different stages of their development before being shipped off to Geonosis for the first battle of the Clone Wars. And the developers did a great job filling these cutscenes with little world-building details. The standard clone helmets in the background to signify the Delta Squad are different, the walkers and dropships in the background of Kamino that give a real sense of scale to the invasion, the Geonosis briefing that could have just been a hologram. Instead, it's set alongside the backdrop of the battle and ends with this poor trooper getting jacked by a Geonosian. The first level does a good job of using the Geonosis battle from the movie to introduce you to the game's core controls and mechanics. Wonder if this game has friendly fire. Whoops, sorry. You play as Delta 38, leader of the Delta Squad, aptly nicknamed Boss. As you make your way through the level, you rendezvous with the other 3 commandos. And this game uses the Ninja Turtle formula for the main characters. There's Scorch, the wisecracking explosives expert.
The charge is set and ready to detonate.
Fixer, the clever by-the-book hacking expert.
Uploading and linking with your visor, sir.
And Sev, the aggressive dark one.
07 locking into your HUD, sir.
Look, he's even got the same color scheme as Raphael. Now, while you can't actually play as the other 3 clones, Republic Commando does have a strong focus on the squad-based gameplay. You use the other members of the Delta Squad to traverse obstacles, command their formation to take on enemies, and make sure they're always nice and healthy. Sometimes it does kind of feel a little like a virtual pet simulator, you know, with guns and rockets. But the squad-based gameplay goes beyond your one-dimensional attack the enemy type of commands. As you progress through the game, your ability to coordinate the Delta Squad efficiently can make a difference between you progressing forward and being gunned down. In addition to the purely strategic gameplay aspects, having the Delta Squad around with their back and forth banter goes a long way in making you feel like you're playing the game as part of a team and not just another isolated FPS.
We need to detonate the rocks to get through. And I'm not just saying that because I love to blow stuff up.
Yes, you are.
This really does become evident later on in the game when you're separated from the rest of the team. Tim Morrison, the father of all clones, voices the boss in this game. Now, the other 3 Delta members don't even try to sound anything close to Django's voice. In fact, the developers went out of their way to make them sound as distinct as possible to give each one a personality, which kind of makes sense.
Why aren't we moving?
Save the button.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Now, in order to keep up with the enhanced Commando clones, the enemies have also been redesigned. The standard battle droids are a bit beefier, with a different color scheme, and for some reason they do a little Michael Jackson shuffle right before they die. The Geonosians are way bigger than the bugs from the movies, and way uglier, which makes splattering them with the blade so much more satisfying. This is also one of the few Star Wars games that actually make super battle droids feel formidable. They definitely channel the Terminator, taking round after round and still plodding forward. Even when they're down, they keep crawling after you. Excuse me, Geonosian, do you mind? I'm trying to splice this terminal. I didn't realize battle droids bled. Gameplay-wise, Republic Commando is comparable with the other big shooters of the time. The controls are well calibrated, especially on PC, levels are varied enough to keep things interesting, and your arsenal of weapons slowly grows as you progress through the game. Although I did find the selection to be a little on the conservative side compared to some other shooters. Overall, it's a solid FPS game, but I think the game's ability to incorporate the Star Wars license is what really makes it a fan favorite. The first third of the game takes place on Geonosis, starting with the battle from Attack of the Clones, before moving on to a bunch of different missions that have the Delta Squad destroy and sabotage various aspects of the Separatist army. The mission eventually leads them inside a droid control ship.
Alone against all these droids? They don't stand a chance.
Spoke too soon, I guess.
These droids must be on standby. I'd better be careful not to wake them up.
Come on, we've all tried to wake them up, right? That's right, boys. Keep running. Nothing to see here. No, damn it. Come on, no, turn around. Ah, crap.
Let me handle this, sir.
See, Qui-Gon, that's how you should have handled it. The Geonosis section ends with the Delta Squad sabotaging the control ship and attempting to escape just in the nick of time. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one struggling to make it out of there on time. Come on, almost out. No. Eventually, the commandos escape and we get a time skip to a year later. For this mission, the team are sent to a derelict Acclamator-class assault ship, the Prosecutor, where the squad are split up. It turns out the ship has been taken over by pudgy Trandoshans.
Those lizards are too fat to fit in the droid access shaft. They'd never catch me in there.
You rendezvous with the rest of Delta Squad and then help the regular clones take the ship's bridge. And I like how some of the regular clones clearly hate the Delta Squad.
Oh, one of the deluxe models. Come to save us with your superior training.
This entire middle section of the game is set on the Prosecutor, and by the time you finish it, you felt like you've explored every nook and cranny of the Proto-Star Destroyer. There are even some nods to classic locations like the detention area. And so, Delta Squad clear the ship of the Trandoshans and then immediately get ambushed by the Separatists. The 4-man squad then go from hangar to hangar, taking on an entire ship full of droids before getting in a walker and blasting them to smithereens. This section also ends with a race against the clock, this time to the turbo lasers to fire at the control ship. The final section of the game takes place in the 3rd year of the Clone Wars. The battle-hardened Delta Squad are sent to Kashyyyk to rescue Tarful, the Wookiee chief who's been captured by the Trandoshans. And this is where the game starts to bridge the gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And what's cool is that this game was actually released a few months before the movie, so we ended up getting a nice tease of things to come. In particular, a cameo from General Grievous. I'm sure I wasn't the only one reloading the game 100 times trying to snipe the bugger. Unfortunately, just like Vamp in MGS2, he is invincible. Again, this game came out before the movie, so at this point, Grievous was this menacing villain that slaughtered all those Jedi at the end of the first Clone Wars micro-series, so getting a glimpse of him in this game was such a treat. And fun fact, you can actually spot Grievous's ship departing Geonosis earlier on in the game. Anyway, so Grievous gets away and you're left to fight his Magna Guards. The Wookiees in this game are absolutely massive. Now that's more like it, unlike those skinny, wet-looking Wookiees from Fallen Order. That and these ones run headfirst into battle, snapping Trandoshans like twigs. Protect Tarful? I'm not sure he needs protecting. After rescuing Tarful, Delta Squad remain on Kashyyyk to fight back the Separatist invasion. Now this would mark the beginning of the long battle for Kashyyyk, the end of which we see in Revenge of the Sith. And of course, no trip to Kashyyyk would be complete without getting your own bowcaster. The game's final section has Delta Squad split up to man 4 turrets which they fire at the Separatist dropship. With the mission successful, the commandos ready to evacuate when 7 is ambushed. The remaining commandos prepare to rescue 7, but they're pulled back and forced to abandon their brother. The very last thing we see is a full-scale invasion of Kashyyyk and an Easter egg cameo from Yoda. Now it's clear the game left things open for a sequel, and here it is. Incredible. Republic Commando Order 66 was a mobile Java game released in 2005. You play as 3 commandos running around gunning down droids. This being Order 66, each level ends with you taking on a Jedi. Look, you've got to take on Plo Koon in his starfighter while he tries to bomb you. That definitely happened, right? Now, crappy Java games aside, at one point there were actually 2 competing sequels in the works at LucasArts. The first being Imperial Commando, which followed a group of Imperial Commando soldiers as they took on the Rebel Alliance and hunted down the remaining Jedi. The second was Rebel Commando, which would have focused on Sev, his rescue, and his eventual defection to the Rebel Alliance during the Dark Times. Unfortunately, both games were cancelled soon after the release of Republic Commando, most likely due to the game's relatively average sales when compared to other Star Wars games released that same year, like Revenge of the Sith and Battlefront 2. That and Republic Commando was released only 3 months after Halo 2, which kind of dominated the FPS scene that whole year. But Republic Commando's legacy would live on in literary form, with 5 tie-in novels being released. The Commando's popularity even endured past the Disney reboot, having both popped up in the Clone Wars and the new Battlefront 2. The original game lives on thanks to the modding community. The mods range from simple quality of life fixes to full-on sequels and spin-offs from the original. Plus, a port of the game has been re-released on modern consoles a few years back. And so there we have it, Star Wars Republic Commando. Okay, objectively speaking, it's not a perfect game. Some of the levels can get a bit repetitive, and the Delta Squad members' AI can be a bit dumb sometimes. Plus, the game's multiplayer was always a bit basic when compared to its contemporaries like Jedi Academy and Battlefront. But those are just a few minor issues in an otherwise great game. Republic Commando manages to be both a good shooter and a great Star Wars game. It combines well-crafted story and lore with great characters and engaging gameplay. The game's dark, atmospheric visual style means that it's actually aged a lot better than its contemporaries. Not only is this game worth playing today, it remains one of the best Star Wars games out there. But that's just my take. Please let me know what you think of Republic Commando in the comments. Where would you rank it amongst other Star Wars games? As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to all of my existing patrons. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.